Right, here we go. So those of you that are just joining, I'm just muting you, so you'll be able to hear me, but I won't be able to hear you just for now. And then when we get to the end, I'm going to leave some time for questions. So I'll unmute everyone. I'll unmute everyone when we've got when we get to the end, so that you can ask questions if that's okay. So sorry for muting you. It just means it'll be a bit clearer for everyone else. Okay. Right. So we're nearly at 10 past, so let's get started then. So hi everyone, thank you for joining in, thank you for coming along. I'm really hoping that this is going to be really useful for you. As I say, I'm going to run through it and then we'll open up the microphones for questions at the end, and I've also got a bit of a special offer at the end for you as well, so I'll talk you through that. So this webinar's had a couple of different titles over the last week or so. But basically what we're going to be talking about is how to socialise your puppy during lockdown. That's kind of that's the theme behind it. So for any of you that are thinking about getting puppies or planning on getting puppies over the next couple of months or weeks or so, or if you have got a puppy either just before we went into lockdown or you've got a puppy during lockdown, this is especially for you, okay? So I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, sort of to introduce me, because I know a lot of you haven't met before, just so you know who I am. I'm going to talk a little bit about what I do, and then we're going to get stuck in with sort of the teaching side of things. And as I say, feel free to make notes or ask any questions if you want to. Okay. So yeah, as I said, I don't think I've met most of you. So I'm Nicola. This is just a photo from last week when I was, because I'm missing seeing all of the dogs that we train and we walk while we're in lockdown. Luckily today I have been back out with one of the dogs that I walk, which has been absolutely brilliant. It's really made my day, really made my week, that I'm going to be getting out again to see the dogs. So yes, that's me. I'm Nicola. I'm a dog trainer. We do dog walking as well, and I run Contented Canines Training School and also the Puppy Nanny as well. So a little bit about me. And kind of how I got into this. So I was born in Lincolnshire. I'm the eldest of 7 children, so I've got 6 younger brothers and sisters. I have also got 4 stepbrothers and sisters as well, so quite a big family. When I was 18, I moved to Liverpool and I studied at Liverpool Uni, and I met my husband there. And then we lived there for about a year, and then we moved to Glossop for the beautiful countryside, and the fact that it was sort of a little bit more rural. And one of the first things that was at the top of my list to do was to get a dog. So we got a dog, so we got Joey. Joey is coming up for 15 now. He's a black Labrador. We got him at 8 weeks old. So he's been with us a long while now. And when I got Joey, I was working in Manchester. So what we were having to do was kind of get someone to come in and look after him during the day. And after a while, I realised that I was really missing doing that myself, and I wanted to be doing it myself. So I ended up doing a complete about turn with my job, started doing some dog walking, got really into doing dog training just by visiting training classes with him, and going around doing different training workshops and things like that, and ended up studying dog training through working with him really, and the problems that he had, and then ended up setting up my dog training classes. So that is about 11, 12 years ago now that I started doing dog training classes, and I have been doing kind of evening training classes, weekend training classes, and I've also been doing one-to-one training since then as well, where I go into clients' homes and help them with any problems they're having. Recently, in the last couple of years, I've been specialising more on puppies. I've been working more on basic training for puppies, beginners manners training, problem solving, and a big part of what I do as well is working on socialisation, which is why I'm doing this webinar. And then other little addition to the family, so 11 years ago, I had my little boy Thomas as well. So I also do quite a bit of family dog training where I'm working with children and dogs as well, either if it's a family that's got a new puppy, or if it's dog owners that are introducing a new baby into the family as well. So we do a little bit of family dog training as well. So you might have heard about me from the vets, or from my email list, or from my Facebook group. So one of the things that I did when I found out we were going into lockdown was I set up a Facebook group. So if you're not a member of it, feel free to join. It's completely free. The idea with the Facebook group is to offer support to all dog owners, not just puppy owners, so puppy and dog owners, and to kind of share with each other pictures, videos and things like that. And then I go into the group quite regularly, and then each day I do something that's either a training type thing or a socialisation type thing as well. And what we've done is we've worked through a series of challenges, and we've just hit, last week we just hit 200 members, so we're just over 200 members. So the first 2 weeks we did a sort of a trick training type thing. One of our tricks that we did was I got everyone to take a photo of their dogs sat with a sign thanking the NHS, and then we put that together. And I'm really proud of it because everyone got stuck in and got involved. They all sent me their photos, and then we were actually featured in the paper that week as well, which is brilliant. So that was the first challenge that we did. And then the second challenge, which was last week and the week before, was socialisation and confidence building during lockdown. So what I've been doing over the last 2 weeks in the group is setting a different challenge each day that's going to help build your puppy's confidence and to socialise them during lockdown. And the webinar tonight is basically a kind of a combination of all of those different things that we've done over the last couple of weeks, plus some additional things as well that I didn't manage to fit in, that I wanted to fit in. So this is me and Joey, and that's my little boy Thomas. This was taken a couple of years ago. Now, I wanted to just quickly touch on Joey, because not just because Joey's the reason I got into dog training, but also because Joey's one of the main reasons that I go on so much about socialisation. And I think he's a really good example of why socialisation is so important. So when I got Joey, I really wanted to do training with him. I was quite keen actually to do a bit of gun dog training with him, which we did do a little bit. And I wanted to do the basics. I wanted him to walk nicely on the lead and come back when I called him and all that kind of thing. So I was really clued up on that. But none of the training classes I went to did anyone mention socialisation. None of the books that I read mentioned socialisation. They talked about the importance of teaching a sit and getting them to come back when you call them and not letting them pull you on the lead. But none of them, and nobody, talked to me about how to make sure he wasn't scared or nervous or anxious, and just generally how to make sure that he was, you know, a confident and happy dog. And to be fair to him, he has been an absolutely amazing dog, especially probably over the last sort of 10 years or so. I can't complain about him at all, but it was tough going to start with. We ended up with quite a few problems simply because no one told us to do socialisation and no one explained what it was. So when I first got him, obviously when you get your puppies, the first thing that you do is you go to the vets, don't you? And then you start your vaccination course with them. And the first thing they say to you is, you're not allowed to take them out. So they're not allowed to go out and about, are they? And I know some people take this really literally to mean not even going out in the garden. I just took it that, you know, we weren't allowed to go anywhere. So I think he had his first vaccination at 9 weeks, and then he had his second vaccination 2 weeks after that, so that would have been 11 weeks, and then he wasn't allowed out until 2 weeks after that. So he was 13 weeks old before we actually started taking him out and about. And then once I did start taking him out and about, I was very much sticking to this sort of 5 minutes per month of age rule. So at 13 weeks, that was a 15-minute walk. So he was getting a little 15-minute walk every day. And then 16 weeks, he was getting a little 20-minute walk every day. Because I was really mindful of not doing any damage to his hips or his elbows or anything like that. So I did that. So that sort of 15, 20-minute walk, what I would do is I'd go around the block, or I'd go up the road to a little field that was up the road. They were our two main walks. Didn't really occur to me to put him in the car and take him out. We maybe did it a couple of times a month, where we'd pop him in the car and we'd take him to the park or something like that, but it certainly wasn't a regular thing. His regular walks were round the block of where we lived and up the road to a field. So from his point of view, he got really, really used to that particular area. He got used to walking around the block. He got used to cars going past, people walking past. Up the road where the field was, there was a field of horses next to it. So he got used to horses. He wasn't bothered about those. So all of the things that we were coming across on our daily walks, he became really, really well used to. But he was missing out on a lot of things. And they were the things that then ended up causing us problems. So one of the biggest things that I had to work with him was other dogs. So he didn't meet many other dogs. It didn't occur to me to introduce him to lots of other dogs or to teach him that other dogs were okay. So when he got to about 12 months, he had a couple of bad experiences and then became very reactive around other dogs. So what he would do is when he saw another dog, he would lunge and bark at it. Luckily, he never kind of actually physically attacked a dog. I think that was more because of my management and how I was so worried that he was going to, that I kept him on lead all the time. But every time we walked past the dog, I was the dog owner on the end of the lead, and he's lunging all over the place, kind of bouncing all over the place, barking at this other dog. So embarrassing and so stressful and really upsetting as well. So that was one of our main problems, and that was the main problem that got me into dog training as well, because in order to work on that with him, I kind of had to learn to be a dog trainer, to train him not to do that anymore. So that was one of the main things. And the main reason for that was simply because I didn't do that socialization with him with other dogs. He didn't really know how to communicate with other dogs. He didn't know that other dogs were safe. He assumed that they were something to be worried about, because the only times he'd had experiences with them were when he'd been attacked by other dogs. And then there were a couple of other things we had issues with. There were some sound sensitivities. So things like smoke alarms. He was very, very scared of those, so he'd run and hide and wouldn't come out. Fine with fireworks though. But for whatever reason, beeping noises, high-pitched beeping noises really worried him. Motorbikes were a really big one as well. So he reacted to motorbikes in the same way that he reacted to other dogs, where if a motorbike went past, what he would do is he would lunge at it and try and bark at it, which obviously is very, very dangerous, not safe at all. But he was doing the same thing that he was doing with other dogs. He didn't like the motorbikes. He didn't want them to come anywhere near him, so he barked at them to try and scare them away. And there were a couple of other things as well, but they're some good examples for you. So if I had spent that time socializing him with sounds like smoke alarms, with the dogs, with motorbikes, with all of these other things, I wouldn't have had these training issues with him, and I wouldn't have had to spend probably the best part of 3 years training him not to do all of these different behaviours. So when we when I knew we were going to go into lockdown, I had quite a few people booked onto puppy classes already. And my first thought was, oh my God, how are people going to socialise their puppies if they're in lockdown? How are they going to carry on doing what they're normally doing? Which is really why I set up the group, because I wanted to make sure that as much as possible, I could support puppy owners so that when we do come out of lockdown, they're not ending up having the same sort of problems that I have ended up having with Joey. So that's sort of the background to me and kind of how I came about doing this. So we'll have a little bit of a chat about what socialisation is, just so we're all on the same page. Most a lot of the time when I talk to people about socialisation, they think it's introducing your dog to other dogs, taking them to the park and letting them run around with other dogs, or taking them to doggy daycare or something like that. And socialisation isn't about introducing them to other dogs. It's about a whole lot of other things. So like I said with Joey, other dogs was an issue, but it was also motorbikes and sounds as well. So other dogs are part of it, but they're just a tiny, tiny little part of it. There's a lot of other things that we need to be working on as well. And I think that's a lot of the time, that's what people don't realise. I think they say, my dogs are really well socialised, we go to the park every day, or they go to doggy daycare every day. But just because they're running around the park with other dogs or in daycare with other dogs, one, it doesn't mean that they're good with other dogs, but two, you're missing out a whole load of other things for socialisation. So socialisation is positive introductions to people, animals, which obviously includes dogs, movement, places, sounds, and alone time as well. So I've included alone time just because we've had quite a few people asking about kind of separation issues and leaving their puppies. So it's all of those different things. That's what your socialisation is. It's building your puppy's confidence and making sure that they're happy with all of these things. The important thing to remember is that there is a bit of a critical age for socialisation, and we think that's roughly between about 12 and 16 weeks. And what that means is between 12 and 16 weeks, because they're still growing and their brains are still developing, they're quite open to new things. They haven't really formed opinions about what they like and what they don't like. That's what's going to happen during that 12 to 16 week period. So during that time, they're going to decide, yeah, other people are okay, yeah, other dogs are okay, or no, I don't particularly like this, or I don't particularly like this. But the nice thing about that 12 to 16 week period is we can also change their minds. So they're a lot more open to new things, so that if they do have a bad experience with something, or if something upsets them or scares them, we can undo that. We can spend time working with them to change their mind about it so that they do like it, rather than it being something to worry about. After that 16-week period, it changes slightly. Some dogs will go through a bit of a fear period at 16 weeks, and you'll know if your puppy does that because all of a sudden they're scared of things that they were fine with before. So a really common one is like if a carrier bag blows across the road or something like that in the wind, all of a sudden they'll really spook when they've seen it a million times before and they've been fine with it, or a wheelie bin's out in the road and that spooks them. So if something like that happens, it's normally because there's a bit of a fear period. But the other thing to remember is even if they don't have a fear period, they're a lot less receptive to new experiences. They're much more likely to come across something new and be really suspicious of it rather than coming round to it quite quickly. So you can carry on doing socialisation after 16 weeks, and I recommend people carry on doing it right up until 6 months as well, especially if you've had a late start with it. But that 12 to 16 week period is kind of that magic time when that's perfect for doing your socialisation. And the reason I'm going on about it so much is, like I said, with Joey, it prevents future problems. So I read, I think another dog trainer had said something along these lines, which I thought was really good. So obviously we're all vaccinating our puppies, aren't we? We're vaccinating them against health problems. Socialisation is vaccinating our puppies against behaviour problems. And I think that's a really nice way of putting it. You know, in my line of work, obviously every day I see dogs that are struggling with all kinds of different things, and it's upsetting for the owners, and obviously it's stressful for the dogs, and it involves a lot of time, a lot of work, and a lot of money to solve these problems. And if we just sort of vaccinated them, as it were, by working on socialisation with them, we could have prevented all of those things from happening in the first place. Okay, so slight challenge in that we're in sort of lockdown. Obviously we're allowed out more than once a day now, but there's still limits to kind of what we can do. So the main problems are that obviously we're not allowed out as much as usual. We're being encouraged to stay at home. So even though we are allowed out more often, it's not like normal. We're not allowed to have visitors over, which is a really big one. So we can't get friends and family members over to come and meet our puppy, and we can't go visiting friends and family members either, like we would be doing if it was a normal situation. There's a lot of places which I normally recommend for socialisation as well, which we can't go to. So some of my favourite places to go to are dog-friendly pubs and cafes, because there's so many different experiences there. Going on the school run, you know, taking them into the school playground, that kind of thing. They're all brilliant opportunities for socialisation, and we just can't do that at the moment. So that's obviously, that's ticked off. And then the big disadvantage, we can't go to puppy class either. So with puppy classes, not only are you working on your training, but you're also socialising them to the other puppies in class, the people, and the sounds and the smells and the space that the puppy classes are in as well. So we've got kind of a lot of obstacles in our way for doing that socialisation during lockdown. So what I've done is I have put together a sort of a 5-step plan for you to work through, which is what we're going to go through next, so that we can make sure that we are still covering as much as possible as we can with our socialisation, even though we're in lockdown, so that when we come out of the other end, we don't end up with loads of problems with our puppies. So I've got 5 kind of categories, and I'm going to talk you through each of them. And with socialisation, there's a lot to be doing, so I've tried to sort of simplify it down a little bit. And the idea is that if you tick these main ones off, you'll be well on the way to having a really happy, well-socialised puppy. So first category, we've got people. Second one is animals. Third one is traffic and travel. Fourth one is noises. And then the 5th one is places. So there are 5 categories that we're going to be working through for our socialisation. So I'll go through these in a little bit more detail of the kinds of things that you want to include. So what I've gone through here is I've gone through things that commonly dogs can become worried by. So these are things that in my experience, are often more scary for dogs, so we do need to spend more time working on them. So men is the first one. We think it's because men are normally bigger, they've got deeper voices, they're often a little bit more direct as well, whereas women are kind of softer voice. The way that they hold themselves is different. So lots of dogs, if they've not been well socialised around men, will be quite wary of men. Even if they're fine with the men in the family, it's normally strange men that they're not good with. Children is a really important one, especially if you've not got children in the family. So small children, primary school age children are a really good one to work on, because they run around all over the place, they make loud noises, they often have noisy toys with them as well. So with the children, it's about them learning that, yeah, they are going to do all of those things, but it's not a threat to them, there's nothing to worry about. And then the last one is uniforms as well. So, you know, different outfits and things, they need to get used to the fact that people are going to wear different things. High-vis is quite a common one for dogs to be worried by. So with people, obviously, we can't be coming into close contact with these people, but we can be watching them from a safe distance. So on your walks, you can be thinking, right, I'll try and time my walk when the postman's out, because that's a man and he's in uniform, or the bin men, because they're men and they've got high-vis on. Or it could be that on a sunny day you go round the local park because there's going to be children on scooters and things like that. And as I say, it doesn't matter that they're not going to kind of actually come into contact with them, so long as they see them, we can make a positive association. So that's our people. So next one is animals. So we've mentioned dogs already. So yes, we need to get them okay with dogs. We need them to learn that there's going to be big dogs, small dogs, furry dogs, all kinds of different dogs, and there's nothing to worry about with them. Birds, so obviously birds that are flying, and also ducks and things like that, pheasants, they're a good one to do. And ducks is quite nice and easy because you can go to the park, can't you? And then I've put horses as well, just because they're kind of the biggest out of all of the farm animals we're going to come across. Obviously there's going to be cows and sheep as well. Horses are often, I think, a little bit more accessible, and a lot of the time horses aren't too bothered by dogs being near them either, because they're normally used to them. So there's lots of others in there as well, but dogs, birds and horses are my sort of top 3 to be working on. So third category, traffic and travel. So we want them to get used to car journeys. It's really common for lots of puppies to be travel sick. Joey was travel sick probably up until about 6 months, but we need to get them used to going in the car. You don't, you know, when you get a dog, you imagine taking them places and going for big long walks, going for nice dog-friendly holidays. So it's something that we need to do. But in addition to getting used to travelling in the car, they need to get used to traffic going past them. So walking along busy roads where lorries are going past, motorbikes are going past, and smaller vehicles as well, so like bicycles, scooters and things like that. So we need to get them happy walking alongside roads where that sort of thing is happening. And then noises. So I said hoover, so household noises, that's going to be really easy to do at the moment. Your smoke alarm as well, and fireworks. So even though there's no fireworks going off at the moment, we can search on YouTube for recordings and we can get them used to the sound of fireworks from there. And then the last one, places. So this is kind of varying your walks. So like I didn't do with Joey, making sure that you're getting them into the centre of town, out into the countryside, you know, to a playground where there's kids, local car park of a supermarket, over a bridge, that sort of thing. Different locations for when you're going out and about on a walk. So those are your 5 categories. So you've got people, animals, traffic and travel, noises and places. So if you keep those in mind, I'm going to do a quick little recap at the end. So that we know what we should be doing. We know that these are the things that we should be socialising them to, but how do we go about doing that socialising? So what we need to do, we need to let them explore in their own time. We don't want to force them to go over to anything, especially if they're a bit worried. They need to build up their confidence in their own time. So if they're hanging back and they're a little bit hesitant, let them hang back and let them build their confidence and explore by themselves. We're not going to help build their confidence if we drag them over to something. So plenty of space and time. And then what we can also do is we can pair something which is potentially scary with something nice. So food treats work really well. So the example I've got here is the hoover. So lots of dogs are worried by the hoover, and this is one of the things that we do on the first week of our puppy course, is that we spend time on getting them used to the hoover as well as other household noises. So the hoover on its own is scary, but if every time the hoover comes out, we add in some cheese, they will learn that the hoover makes cheese and they will be happy dogs. So we're pairing something potentially scary with something nice happening. We're pairing the hoover with the cheese so that our dogs are happy. Okay, so that's how we're going to do it. What I'd like you to do from now on with your puppies, when you're thinking about what you're going to do that day, I want you to plan trips out, not walks. You're not walking your puppy for the first 6 months. Obviously they will be walking, but you're not going for walks, you're going for socialisation trips. So it's going to be a case of thinking, okay, right, let's go into town today and we'll go along the high street. Let's go to the supermarket and we can walk through the car park. Let's go on the train in the train station. Let's go through the local park and walk past the duck pond. So it's trips where you're having experiences rather than, right, we're going to walk for this amount of time. And that's going to be the best way to tick off your socialisation without kind of thinking, gosh, there's such a lot to do, and rather, you know, without being overwhelmed by it as well. So I'll do a quick little recap and then I'll open it up for questions. So our 5 sort of key things to be focusing on for our socialisation is going to be people, animals, traffic and travel, noises and places as well. We do go into this in a lot more depth in the training course, but this is kind of a nice easy one for you to tick off for now. Okay, right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to unmute everyone, and in fact what I'll do is I'll stop screen sharing for a second. There we go. And then I will unmute everyone. And if you want to show your video, you can do as well. And then if anyone's got any questions, as I say, you can either speak up or you can type it in the box. Any questions at all? If there's no questions, that's fine. I can hear people eating their tea.
So with our other dog, Nicola,
yeah,
are we doing these things with the puppy on its own?
Yeah, definitely, yes. Thing is that obviously it's lovely having an older dog as well. They'll learn good and they'll learn bad. But what we want is we want them to kind of build up that resilience on their own. So the risk with kind of taking them out with an older, you know, an older brother or sister is they'll pick up on the one hand, they'll pick up on what the older brother or sister's doing, but also they'll almost have them there as kind of backups. So if they're then in a situation where, say they meet another dog, they might be fine with another dog when they've got their brother or sister with them, but then once they're on their own, they might be scared because they've not got their friend with them to kind of back them up. So you can do a mixture. Obviously, you want to be taking them out together, but I would also make sure you're doing plenty of them on their own as well. So you do almost have kind of twice as much to do when you start off, just to make sure that they're happy and they're confident without their other partner there with them. Does that make sense?
That's really good. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? I've got a couple in the comments, so I'll go through those in a sec. Okay, so I'll go through, brilliant, thank you everyone. I'll go through the questions in the comments, so I'll just start at the top and then I'll work my way through. So first one, somebody's asked, what's your advice for the best way to introduce puppies to new dogs? Very much take their time with it. It depends where it is as well. So assuming that you're like in the park or something like that, I would make sure that the other dog's on lead. So what you don't want is you don't want the new dog kind of running over to your puppy and bowling it over and kind of scaring it. The other dog, the new dog that they're meeting, needs to be controlled and kind of secured, so that if your puppy wants to go over, they can go over, but if they don't want to go over, they don't have to. I think what often happens when you're introducing your new puppy to dogs is you go somewhere like the park and then all the dogs come running over and your puppy's absolutely terrified because they've never met another dog before. And if they're on the lead and all the other dogs are off lead, they can't get away. They've got no means of escape. So it needs to be quite controlled. And it might take a few exposures before they're happy with a particular new dog, and that's fine. The first couple of times they meet new dogs, they might be hiding behind you and trembling and scared, and that's absolutely fine. But it's something new. They might need quite a few exposures before they get to the point where they kind of want to go over and have a bit of a sniff and investigate. The other thing to kind of bear in mind with that as well is when you do introduce them, obviously make sure that it's a friendly dog as well. So check with your dog owner that they're friendly before you let them go and say hello. Okay, hopefully that has answered that question. What I'm going to do, because everyone's using the chat box, so I'm going to mute, and then I'll just run through those instead. Okay, so hopefully that's answered that one. So the next one, how would you take your puppy out before they get their vaccines? You get a sling. Yes, it's a thing. You get a puppy sling. So obviously it's much harder if you've got a big dog. One of my clients at the moment has got a Great Dane puppy. So it's a bit more tricky for them. If you've got a smaller breed dog, cockapoo, anything like that, even a Labrador, you pop them in a sling, you have their harness on so that you can grab onto it as well. Problem with slings is they can get quite wiggly. So some puppies will happily sit in the sling and kind of take the world in, but most of the puppies I've come across are quite wriggly and they want to get out, so you do kind of have to hold them in. And then you can carry them around with you, so you can still do all of your little trips out, but you're carrying your puppy instead of having them on the floor. The other thing that you can also do is you can drive them places. So you can drive them to places and let them have a little look out the window. So you could park at the supermarket and let them watch people going past with trolleys, park at the park, let them watch dogs walking past. So yeah, either sling or car or a mixture of both of those. Okay, so somebody's asked, how do you get your puppy ready for the first visit to the vet? It's a tough one because often you don't have that much time. So some vets will make you wait a week after picking up your puppy before they'll do the first vaccination, but that's probably the most you're going to have with your puppy. I would probably be doing a little bit of handling work with them. So just getting them used to being a bit poked and prodded. Probably not straight away, not in the first couple of days, because they need 2 to 3 days to settle in first of all. After that 2 to 3 days, I would maybe be just doing a little bit of gentle kind of handling with them, stroking them, messing with their ears, feeling their paws, kind of messing with their tail a little bit, so they get used to all of that, because that's what's going to happen at the vets. At the vets, when they go, they're going to be messed with, and that's what's going to be difficult for them. You could potentially try doing it on a table as well, because with small puppies, they'll usually lift them up onto a table, so you could lift them up onto a table and do the same sort of thing. And for vaccinations, they're going to be kind of in the scruff of their neck at the back. So at the back of your puppy's neck, they've got like all these loose folds of skin. So what you could do, you could just take hold of that and give that a little bit of a wiggle as well, just so they're comfortable with that. It's not usually the vaccinations that cause the problem with the vets. It's more the fact that they're somewhere strange and someone they don't know is messing around with them. Okay, hopefully that one helps. So our puppy is now 17 weeks. She's very happy to meet new dogs. She's submissive as soon as they start to make a fuss, but after a couple of minutes gets confident, jumps up and starts to be quite jumpy. As soon as they start to make a fuss of her, after a couple of minutes she gets confident and jumps up and starts to be jumpy. I suppose it depends how the other dog reacts. So if the other dog doesn't mind, I don't think I would mind too much. If the other dog does mind, the other dog will probably tell her off. And so long as it's, you know, a polite telling off, I think that's okay as well. The best way for our dogs to learn how to behave around other dogs is to be told by them. So she's going to meet dogs that are fine for her to be all jumping in their face, and she's going to meet dogs that aren't going to be fine with that, and they'll tell her off. You know, they might growl at her, they might even kind of push her to the floor or that sort of thing, and that's, you know, that's all fine. She probably needs that to learn. She's going in submissive, obviously, because that's kind of the safest thing to do. She's saying, you know, I'm no threat, there's nothing to worry about here. But then once she realizes that they're friendly, she's wanting to interact a little bit more. The only thing I would make sure I was doing is teaching her that she can't say hello to every dog that she comes across. So one of the big problems with kind of letting them off lead in the park and places like doggy daycare is they do learn to play with other dogs really, really well, but then often that's the only thing that they want to do. So make sure you're managing it so that sometimes she does get to say hello to the dogs, but sometimes she doesn't get to say hello to other dogs as well. Okay, I'm going to come back to that one about puppy's first 48 hours. So you've got a 17-month-old dog and you're getting a new puppy in a couple of weeks. How would we introduce the dogs to each other? We've got a blanket on the way from the breeder with the puppy scent on to help our dogs start to get used to the puppy scent but don't yet know about introducing. Okay, that's a really good question. How exciting. So I would be trying to do it on neutral territory. So yes, scent swapping is a really good idea. So you can bring the puppy scent home for your existing dog. What I would do is I would introduce them on neutral territory. So when you arrive home with your new puppy, maybe introduce them in the garden or something like that, because obviously you can't put your puppy down outside on the street. You'd have to do it in the garden or the yard or something like that. I would keep your older dog on lead. Same as before, what we said when we were introducing puppies to new dogs, I would keep your older dog on lead. Pop your puppy down at floor level if you can, so if it's safe to do so, and then just let them kind of have a little bit of a sniff at each other. But it's going to be much easier if you can do that somewhere outside of the house where there's room for everybody to get to, first of all. And then it'll be very much a case of, depending on how everyone reacts, so your puppy might be really, really nervous and kind of hang back a little bit and be really polite, and your older dog might be quite reassuring and encouraging. Your puppy might be really irritating for your older dog, and your older dog might need to tell the puppy off a little bit. It will be interesting to see kind of how they do get on, but if you can do it on neutral territory with the older dog on lead and the puppy kind of free to explore as much as possible, that will be the best way to do it. Okay. Would you take your older dog to collect the puppy? Yeah, you could do, definitely. Yeah, that's a good point, Lisa, actually. Yeah, so you could take your older dog to collect the puppy as well. You'd have to see what the breeder would say as well. So they might not let the older dog into the house, but obviously for sort of infections and things like that. But yeah, that's a really good idea. Okay, so puppy's first 48 hours in the new home. Top tips for that would be just not to expect too much, just to be really relaxed with them. I wouldn't worry too much about any kind of training or socialisation to start off with. The only thing I would be working on for that first 48 hours is probably starting some toilet training with them. So let them settle in. I normally start off in one room with my puppy, so maybe like the kitchen or somewhere where there's a nice hard floor, and just spend time with them, let them get to know you, let them realise that it's a safe space, that nothing's going to happen. play with them, cuddle them, talk to them, just make sure it's a really happy time for them. If they don't want you to leave them on their own during that 48 hours, then don't do. You know, it's really scary for them. They've left their litter mate and their mums, and they don't want to be shut all by themselves then on the first night. So you probably will need to be with them for the first couple of days at least. And yeah, just take your time with them. As I say, don't worry too much about any training, getting them to do a sit or anything like that. Just get them eating, get them toileting outside, and get them kind of happy and getting to know you. Okay, so I'm going to do one more. I think I've got one more left. Okay, so someone's just said, oh, okay, thank you. You're very welcome. Hope that's helpful. So with a crate and a metal pen area, we're planning to keep the pup in the crate at night, but should we close the crate door when she's sleeping? I'm worried if we lose, yeah. So with your crate training, the aim is that they're shut in the crate, that whenever they're, whenever you're out of the house or overnight, they are shut in the crate, because yes, if you leave the door open, they will go into the crate and they'll sleep, and then they'll just come out of the crate and they'll go to the toilet. So the reasoning behind using a crate for your toilet training is to stop them from going to the toilet. It's to make them think, I'm in my crate, I need to cross my legs for a little bit and wait until I'm let out. And then when I'm let out, then I'll go to the toilet. So that's your plan, that's your ideal really, that's what you want to be trying to do. Obviously you need to make sure that they're happy and settled in the crate before you can shut them in the crate. But if you're using a crate and leaving the door open, you may as well just use a bed really, because it's not kind of, you're not using it the way it's been designed to be used. Okay, right. So hopefully that's been helpful. What I will just mention before I go back to the screen is that in the Facebook group over the next, oh thanks Steve, in the Facebook group over the next 2 weeks, the plan is going to be that I'm going to do puppy problem solving. So each day I'm going to be going into the group and I'm going to be talking about a common problem. So things that we've already chatted about, there's going to be things about crate training, toilet training, there's going to be stuff about getting them used to settling overnight, getting them used to being handled, all sorts of different things. So if you're not already in the Facebook group, definitely get in there, because I normally do it sort of around, I don't know, between 3 and 5 every day, sort of mid-afternoon-ish. I'll go on and then I'll chat with you about some common problems. And if there's anything that I don't cover that you come up with, I'm more than happy to go through that with you as well. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to sharing this screen again. And then I'll just talk you through the offer that I've got on at the moment. So since we've been in lockdown, I have moved all of my classes online, which has been a massive learning curve for me. But you've got to do what you've got to do, haven't you? And for me, I didn't want people waiting until we come out of lockdown before they do any training, because by then you may end up with problems that you could easily have avoided. So, the reality is that we might not be able to get together in group classes probably for a few more months. So the next best thing is to do it online. So all of my training classes are online. The one that's going to be best for anyone with new puppies is my Perfect Puppy course. And I've got one starting at the beginning of June. And because they're all online, I've changed how I do things slightly. So we use Zoom like we're using now. I have a maximum of 4 puppies in each class so that I can keep an eye on everyone. You can see me like you can now, and I can see you as well, so I can demo things for you, and then you can copy and I can see what you're doing. So we do a weekly class like that, and then in addition to that, to kind of support that, you also get handouts each week, and you get video homework as well. So you get videos sent to you, and then you've got the opportunity then as well to do your own videos at home, and then you can upload them for me to check and mark as well. So that's been really helpful. We've had quite a few people working on the puppy course. So the next one starts at the beginning of June. And for those of you that are interested in the Perfect Puppy course, the online course, at the moment it's on special offer. So it's normally £150, and it's a 7-week course altogether. It's a 6-week course, and then there's a little orientation session at the start as well. So in total it's 7 weeks. And that includes your welcome pack with your clicker and your treats and your socialisation workbook and all of the information that you need as well. So once we went down into lockdown, kind of with everyone being stuck at home, I've reduced it from 150 down to 120. But for those of you that are on this webinar that are interested in booking, you get a further 10% off by using the code PUPPYWEBINAR when you order online. So this is just on the June course. So Tuesday the 2nd of June at 6:30 it starts. There's 4 spaces on it. So as I say, they're quite small classes. And so for obviously today, all day tomorrow and all day Wednesday, you can use that code to get an extra 10% off that £120. So that'll knock you another £12 off. So you're getting it for just over £100. So the code is PUPPYWEBINAR. So if you just put the code PUPPYWEBINAR in, when you check out, then that'll automatically take that 10% off. Okay, right. So hopefully that's been helpful. If anyone's got any, oh, hang on, it's beeping at me in the corner. Oh, okay. Right, yes, thank you. Yeah, it's a good job that was beeping at me there. So how old should they be to start the course? As soon as you've got them. So in the one, we've got some graduating tomorrow night. We've got 4 puppies graduating tomorrow night, and they started about a week after they'd arrived home. They were all either 10 or 11 weeks old when they started. And it's been absolutely amazing because starting with them, we've actually been able to start with them younger than we would have been able to do in class because it doesn't matter about their vaccinations. So we've been able to get started really early with them, and they've just done absolutely amazingly. So yeah, as soon as you've picked them up, they can start the course. Yeah, it's 1 session per week. So each session is it's between about 45 minutes, roughly about 45 minutes, sometimes a little bit shorter, sometimes it's a little bit more depending on the questions that people have got and that sort of thing. But we've got that 1 session per week. And then you get, as I say, you get the handouts every week, and then you get homework for training and for socialisation every week as well. And then there's the option to upload your videos from you working at home with them, to upload them to me for me to have a look at as well. Okay, maximum age you would take them on the course, I would say probably, it depends. I would say probably 6 or 7 months. So normally it is the younger the better. But if you've got a dog where you maybe have missed out on training classes and you still want to get started and you're still wanting to do the socialisation, I think 6 or 7 months would be fine. I'm working with a dog that actually walk her as well, that I took her out today, lovely Lily, she's a German Shepherd. And she started at about 6 months because I think they've just missed out on getting onto training classes. So we've still done all the socialisation with her, and it is taking longer, but it's making such a difference to her. So 3 of us on the call don't pick our pups until the 3rd of June. Oh my goodness, how exciting. Yeah, it would be brilliant for you all to be together. Imagine if all 3 of you were on the course. So if you pick them up on the 3rd of June, so the first week, which is the 2nd of June, that actually might be perfect because first session on the 2nd of June is what I call the orientation, which is basically where I explain how the course is going to work. I talk about socialisation again, a little bit like we've done now, but in a lot more detail. And I start you off with how to use the clicker as well. So I taught you through clicker training, and I set you some clicker training homework. So in theory, you could come along to that on the 2nd, pick up your puppies on the 3rd. That gives them nearly a week to settle in, and then they would then join the class the week after that on the 9th. So yeah, I think that would work really well. I think that would work really well. So presumably if you're picking them up on the 3rd, they're probably, what are they, 8 weeks old then? So they'll be 9 weeks by the time they start class. And as I say, we've had in the course that's graduating tomorrow night, 2 of the puppies were 10 weeks old. So yeah, I think that would be fine. The nice thing about starting them early as well, I think, is that you get to ask about your problems straight away, even before their issues. You can work on them straight away. And I'm very kind of involved with my puppy owners. So if people do have questions and things like that, then you can, drop me a text or a WhatsApp or an email or what have you as well. Okay, any more questions before we finish off? I'm really intrigued to find out what puppies so the 3 of you that are getting the same litter, what breed are you getting? Someone Cavapoos, oh, adorable. Oh, adorable. Oh my God. I'm very excited that I might have a class full of Cavapoo puppies now. Excellent. Oh, really good. That's so exciting. Cheap plug. Okay. I will have a look. I do follow people on Instagram. We have an Instagram account which is the Puppy Nanny. So feel free to have a look on there. There's some of the Cavapoos that we've worked with on there as well. At the moment, we've got, so tomorrow night graduating, we've got a German Shepherd puppy. We have got a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel puppy. We've got the Great Dane puppy that I mentioned before. And we've got a Cavapoo puppy as well in that one. And then we just had graduating the other week. What did we have then? A collie. There was a collie, a golden retriever, Labrador. So yeah, it's been a really nice mixture actually, really nice mix of breeds. So excellent. Okay. Well, hopefully you've all got my contact details. So if you've had this link, you've either got it by email or you've got it from Facebook. So if you've got it by email, you've got my email address, so you can contact me there. If you've had it from Facebook, then obviously you can join the group on Facebook or you can message me on Facebook. Rashishan, lovely. You're very welcome. I really hope it's been helpful. And yeah, look forward to hopefully seeing more of your puppies again soon. Take care, everyone. Have a good evening. Bye.